A lot of moving parts come together to get food off farms to you. But along the way, despite the best intentions, nearly 8 million tonnes of food is wasted in Australia every year.
Because it's discarded in the packing shed, because it's damaged in transport, because it's rejected from a distribution centre, because it's mishandled in a store, because it makes it to your home and gets chucked in the bin, or because it gets scraped off your plate in a restaurant.
The stats are shocking. Australia is the world's 10th most wasteful nation. 70% of the food wasted is edible, and it costs the country $36 billion annually. Melissa Smith from End Food Waste Australia says it's more than food being wasted.
When we waste food, we waste everything that went into making it. So that's the land, that's the water, that's the diesel, that's the fertiliser, that's the staff hours. So in dollars, this adds up to literally billions a year for horticulture. It's a land mass the size of Victoria gets wasted every year.
To halve food waste by 2030, the federal government established the End Food Waste Australia CRC, or Cooperative Research Centre, in 2018.
That CRC is the most well-funded research centre focusing on food waste in the world. That's in Australia. So we should be proud of the fact that we are world leading on this. Also that we committed to halving food waste by 2030, which we were one of the first countries to do that. And so it's brave, but we need to act on it.
Climate change has upped the urgency as food rotting in landfill emits methane.
Globally, food waste has a bigger carbon footprint than flying. And in Australia, it's about 3.5% of our emissions. I think the goal is absolutely achievable, but Hort have to play a huge role in it. But the good news is they are jumping on board.
More than half the wasted food is fruit and vegetables. So it makes sense horticulture is leading agriculture in developing solutions. The banana and melon industries have adopted world-first waste action plans, and horticulture's leaders helped write the Australian Food Pact. When companies which grow, transport, buy, sell and process food sign the pact, they're audited and offered solutions. And Melissa says many are unknowingly blind to the problem, the solutions and the savings.
There are times when we go and visit a site and they'll say, I don't know what you're talking about for food waste. And then we literally have to step out of the way as a tug pulls past 5 bins of produce that's about to be chucked out. It is a true low-hanging fruit, excuse the pun, but it is saving businesses. Large Australian food businesses are saving millions of dollars a year by addressing these food waste issues.
Yeah. Please tell me about the other.
Brisbane wholesaler Simon George and Sons has operations around the country. It was the first company to sign the pact.
So 400 tonnes of fruit and vegetable come in and out of our door every week. And of that, we've got less than a percentage of food waste. But if you're having that as a kilo, it's upwards of a tonne of food waste each week.
The CRC introduced the Providor's Chief of Staff, Emily Eastman, to a food charity.
Instead of putting it on a waste truck, we're putting it on one of our trucks over to FareShare. It's about 300 kilos of fresh produce to them each week, which is the equivalent of around 1,200 meals.
What's sent looks like what's in our fridges. Edible food with a shelf life of days, not weeks.
And then some of these shallots, which are a little bit tired but perfectly usable.
Correct, and particularly because FareShare will use them today.
Yeah, they are wizards in the kitchen there, aren't they?
Yes.
They know how to make the most out of things.
Yes. But as you can see, there's a little bit of yellow through it. So we've got to think of our supply chain and how far that it needs to go. When it leaves our shed, it's got to have that longevity to last for our clients, particularly the remote clients.
Each week is different. There might be Asian basics, seasonal stars, or pricey produce.
So if we were to send these to a high-end hotel or a client, they might come back to us. So
they're in perfect shape.
Absolutely perfect condition. So there's quite a few trays of those going today, which will be awesome in the meals. We've got some really nice boutique herbs.
A big source of waste used to come from the business's processing room. Now a lot less goes in the bin.
Got about 50 kilos of carrot offcuts going to Fair Share each week now, which just makes a beautiful soup.
I haven't seen the Brock stems, and this is so good because these get wasted terribly.
Correct,
yeah.
And we're doing about 100 kilos of these each week, which is just awesome.
Yes.
The oddest delivery? Hundreds of kilos of nude lemons, hand-peeled for a client wanting just the rind. And previously that would have gone in the bin?
Unfortunately, correct, yep. We're so proud to be a part of the Food Pact, and we would encourage as many others in our industry to sign up as a signatory as well, because the more that are involved will mean the greater impact we can collectively have towards their goal.
For 10 hours every day, it's a mystery box, you know.
Chef James Feen calls the 12 tonnes he receives a week the surprise chain. He was the recipient of the 480 kilos of nude lemons, which he boiled, pureed and froze.
So about 300 litres we go through a week for lemon chicken. So a very simple product that could have eventually been in landfill.
A touchy topic in agriculture is overproduction. Sometimes seasons surprise and are good for all. But those who regularly produce more than the market wants are deeply unpopular, as that's when prices fall. To avoid that, excess produce may be fed to stock or ploughed in. But thanks to the Food Pact, increasingly gluts are donated as formal pathways and systems are set up.
When there's sweet potatoes around, there's tons and tons and tons of it. So same thing, we will often process when we have an excess amount, and we're talking 8 to 10 tonne will come through in a week.
FareShare's Brisbane kitchen produces 1.5 million meals a year. But it's not enough, as now the working poor, people with a job, need help.
The need is exponential. We've now got families that never in their life have they ever thought they would reach out for some sort of food assistance. The statistics from Australia Food Bank is 2 in every 5 people have some sort of food insecurities.
James believes as more organisations sign the Food Pact, measure their waste and devise solutions, more produce will be redirected from landfill and cow paddocks.
We have so many areas within Australia that we still aren't even touching. We aren't even scratching the surface when it comes to food waste.
To help people who donate food and transport, a private member's bill was recently tabled in federal Parliament recommending a tax incentive. The CRC, which provided support for the bill, says if this revolutionary change is passed, it will mark a critical milestone in its fight against both food waste and hunger.
We know that it's over 3 million households in Australia last year were food insecure, which means they aren't 100% sure of where their next meals are coming from.
Food charities work, but farmers and transporters can't always pick, pack and deliver for free. This warehouse in Melbourne houses Farmers Pick, a food rescue business set up by 2 uni mates, Josh Ball and Josh Brooks-Duncan. They buy what farmers would previously have lost money on ploughing back into their paddocks, or food stranded at the market with no buyer.
We were working our corporate jobs full-time for the first year and then jumped in solely into it, and yeah, I think 4 years later, here we are.
Is that known as the Red Bull period?
Yeah, that would be known as the Red Bull period.
Best description for it, yeah. There was a lot of coffee and a couple of Red Bulls and some big late nights.
It's a food box home delivery service, and it saves customers about 30% because what's inside is wonky, discoloured, blemished, under or oversized, or excess produce.
We do a set box and we give people the options to exclude certain things, like Josh would definitely have mandarins out of it because he does not like mandarins, but that's okay. And we do fruit and veg only and fruit only.
The 2 Joshes were shocked by how much edible produce didn't make it to market. Farmers were stunned they'd buy it off them.
Why would you buy that? We've been told for 40 years that this is rubbish. Literally, we should just put it in a paddock and let it kind of break down. But yeah, we started to change the conversation.
We want the farmer to be profitable. We want them to make money because at the end of the day, that's the core pillar of our business as well.
The business is profitable, employs 100 staff and is still growing.
You know, our customers are really passionate about this, as are we, which I think gives us a really good chance of making a meaningful impact.
If you're watching this video, you might be in a toxic relationship with food waste.
Today, we helped one of our farmers rescue 2,000 kilos of eggplant.
Call to action social media posts attract a range of customers. For some, it's about lowering their environmental impact or boosting farmers' income. Others want to avoid supermarkets, while most are keen to save money. It's what the Joshes call win-win, win-win.
Can you believe it? Something this big is too small.
When 5 tonnes of small celeriac were going to be ploughed in, Josh Ball made an offer. In it came, and then out it went, in boxes. They knew their model was working when a corn grower called.
They came to us and were like, hey, we've got 2 million cobs every single year that get rejected because, you know, the kernels are slightly crooked or there's a little bit of like husk like left over from when it's being processed. In the next 12 months, we expect to save about 500,000 corn cobs.
So they're just too small?
Yeah, too small.
This warehouse restocks daily.
Too small?
Too small.
No one wanted these undersized pumpkins.
So they probably would have gone to cows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have we got here?
So we've got limes that didn't quite make it to being green, partly green. But yeah, these wouldn't be taken by the major supermarkets, but they still taste and smell beautiful.
The food crime here
It's mainly shape and the bendiness of them.
and here.
So they didn't quite decide if they wanted to be green or red.
Week 1, they rescued 100 kilos of food. 4 years on, it's 120,000 kilos a week, and most comes direct from farm.
We're able to get it there with a bit more shelf life, which also helps address food waste at home. You don't have to look at your drawer the next day, everything's kind of gone off, and you've got a little bit more time.
They've opened a warehouse in Brisbane and deliver to all eastern states and the ACT.
Being here has been a real eye-opener, and not just because of the sheer volume of produce that's being rescued, but because of what it tells us about the disconnect between supply and demand. In Australia at the moment, there's a shortage of limes, corn and eggs. But here in the warehouse of rescued food, there are limes which aren't green enough, corn which is the wrong shape, and eggs which are too small.
We're always looking for new farmers to join and partner with and work together. I think it's an easy pitch. It's like, hey, instead of putting it in a paddock, put it in a box and we'll pay you. I think it's that simple.
Yeah.
One of the 40 farmers on their books is Catherine Velisha, who runs Velisha Farms at Werribee outside Melbourne.
So these collies claim to be a little bit small. It's beautiful. They're all beautiful, but they're just a little bit smaller than what's deemed acceptable.
Supermarket specifications are tight. If collies are small, marked by leaf rub or sport a yellow sunburn tinge, they're homeless. Or they used to be.
That's still perfectly fine to eat.
Perfectly fine to eat.
And perfect for Farmers Pick's social media feed.
We're down here at Velisha Farms in Werribee where we've just picked up 2,000 cauliflowers.
But they've been deemed too small. But these are perfectly good, and they're going to be coming in your boxes over the next 2 weeks.
You're getting paid, so has it been useful for you financially?
Yeah, for sure. The yield of your field is everything. To grow a good collie or a bad collie by an industry standard costs the same to grow. So the more I can sell, the better it is for a grower.
Impressed, the Joshes have lasted 4 years in the ruthless fresh produce industry. Catherine believes they're more than businessmen. She says they're waste warriors.
What I really think it does is open people's eyes about this was going to be thrown out. Should it have been thrown out? And starting to question the system, because in my opinion, it's the system is broken and there's not one player that's to blame for that. That's all of us. That's growers, supermarkets and shoppers.
31 companies have signed the Food Pact, including Coles, Woolworths and IGA. While there's broad agreement supermarkets need to redefine what acceptable, safe produce looks like, Catherine's got some tough love for you and me.
I don't think it's the supermarket, it's us as customers. They go off the data, they go off what's left on those shelves. So if you're picking and going through and rummaging through cauliflowers or broccolis or apples and picking out certain ones, the data shows that they sell those certain ones, and then that makes the spec. So us as individuals, we feel like we're quite powerless, but we're actually quite powerful, and we can make decisions in our everyday that can potentially change a whole food system along the line.
Not far from Catherine's one of the country's biggest vegetable growers, Fresh Select, which has farms in 3 states. John Said, Managing Director of the family business, had an epiphany 7 years ago after a waste audit.
We were quietly shocked, to say that, quietly shocked.
What were the numbers?
The numbers were that, on average, we only harvested 75% of what we planted. We actually thought we were around 85%. That's why the alarm bells rang, because that threw our costings right out the window.
The search for fixes started in the paddocks, all 2,000 hectares of them. With few gains there, John turned to technology.
The CSIRO came to the rescue, and there was born a relationship that started to deal with food waste.
Not much wrong with this apart from a little bit out the side here, but it just won't be any good for retail. So this is the type of stuff we want to pick up and minimise the food waste that we get out here.
As Landline reported in 2019, John found himself in a new industry, turning fresh veg into powders. That waste broccoli was actually nutritional gold.
Broccoli is one of the most nutritious vegetable we have, and it's very high in protein. Imagine 30% of broccoli is protein, in dry basis. So we thought that's a good start, to start developing nutrient-dense vegetable products.
Back then, the powder project was in the research and development phase, but the intellectual property's been commercialised, and John has a new business called NutriV.
It's purely been put there to deal with food waste, to improve sustainability, our carbon footprint, and more importantly, make vegetables more accessible to consumers.
It sells bulk vegetable powders to food businesses and veggie snacks and powders to supermarkets.
Today, we dry these, and the beauty of them is that they're just absolutely beautiful. They're so sweet.
Since 2020, 400 tonnes has been saved from landfill.
70 grams, believe it or not, that consists of 10 serves of vegetables. So every 7 grams is now a serve of veg.
He calls the powders health by stealth, as they can be hidden in smoothies, cakes, breads, soups, and, of course, spag bowl. John Said became a Food Pact signatory to take responsibility for his operations' waste.
As farmers, no one's going to solve our problems. We have to solve our own. So food waste is our problem. If it's fixed, it brings significant revenue back to your business. It helps you become more viable. Today, in a world where we're all heading for sustainability,
the financial upside, he says, is huge.
We leave behind in the vicinity of about $4.5 million worth of waste just in broccoli. That's one line. That's the size of the prize.
Here's an absolutely beautiful cauliflower.
Just 3% is being turned into powder, but the goal is to get as close to 100% as possible. The powder business is small, but as output and demand grows, he wants to buy seconds off neighbouring farmers and then set up drying factories in the country's food bowls. Can Australia halve food waste by 2030?
That's a really good question. I mean, our targets are certainly that. There's no doubt about that. I think at parts of the supply chain we can achieve those targets. I think it's going to take a lot of consumer awareness to be able to achieve that, because the reality is there's still a lot of food waste that happens at home.
As John Said knows, when it comes to upcycling seconds, scale helps. Ausgroup in Coffs Harbour in New South Wales is a blueberry co-op owned by 143 growers. 800 tonnes of blueberries will go through this packhouse this year. Berries have to last 16 days, So the slightest tear or softness sees 10% rejected. Blemishes are detected by human eyes or cameras able to photograph 260 berries a second. Imperfects used to go to compost, with transport costs of $250,000. But a freezing line has saved a lot of fruit from that fate.
Perfectly all right to eat on the day, and that's why we try and do something with value add and snap freeze it on the day after we've sorted it, or turn it into another value add stream.
Did you figure that Australia didn't need another jam?
Pretty much.
Sean Tholen turned to food technologist and snack designer Stuart Picken to cut waste and lift grower returns. Stuart built this facility after a grower gave him 70 tonnes of blueberry seconds. Now he turns frozen berries from Ausgroup into powders. He uses rescued macadamia nuts, mangoes and bananas too.
We've tried jams, syrups, drinks, snack bars, bliss balls, protein balls, dog biscuits. The solution's not always obvious, and I think it just needs a bit of research and product development around that to find the sweet spot.
He thinks this new snack for a major juice company using Ausgroup berries will be one of his best and lead to more fruit rescues. So if transport is the killer, do you need hubs that are near where the food is actually grown?
That's what we're trying to create. And so we're working with Ausgroup down at Coffs Harbour to find a way that we can vertically integrate a waste solution, I suppose, for their seconds and the other blueberry processors around that area.
Often a good idea floats around unloved until the times suit it, which seems to be now. There's money in it for farmers, charities and food repurposers. It's helping feed the hungry, all while reducing the carbon footprint of food. But there's 6 years till 2030, and a lot more has to happen if the bold goal of cutting food waste in half by then will be reached.